Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Angela, and thank you for coming and spending a little time out with me today. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you 7 reasons why we are overweight, and I'm including myself in this as well. So stay listening right to the end for insight into this topic, but also on how we can move past this stage and work towards our goals. But before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to our channel supporters this week. And they are Ali, Sheila, Diane, Horatio, and Tony. Thank you so much for your support. You are now part of a growing community via our membership program that has some great features designed to support you. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on. So guys, we're going to jump straight into our topic, which is 7 reasons why we are overweight. So let's get going. So the first reason that and I include myself in this because even though to date I have lost 131 pounds, I still have some more weight to lose. The number one reason why we are overweight is very simple. We are out of balance. Something in our lifestyle, in our food choices, in our activity routines, in our mindset, in our sleep, even metabolically, in our hormones, and something is out of balance. And we're going to unpick this and explore this a little bit more. If your imbalance is related to a medical problem, maybe your hormones, maybe you have a health condition, then definitely speak to your medical practitioner and seek advice on that. And that, for so many reasons, could be a factor. I know for myself, I was completely out of balance because I have a number of health conditions. I was taking lots of medication that was affecting my mood, impacting my food choices. It was affecting how I was feeling emotionally and mentally. So I was definitely out of balance and had to work on that with my medical practitioner to get the right level of treatment to bring me back into balance. So don't ever underestimate that as to why we are overweight, why we can be gaining weight, but also why it can be challenging to lose weight. So do speak to your medical practitioner about that. Another really important factor within that is if it's not a medical issue, then it is often down to a poor relationship with food, i.e., we make poor food choices. And we may find ourselves eating a diet high in processed foods, high in sugars, unhealthy fats, refined carbohydrates, and all of this can lead to excessive calorie intake and contribute to weight gain. So somewhere along the line, there is an imbalance with that. But the imbalance often comes because of that poor relationship that we have with food. Now, when we're children, for so many people, myself included, we're often given 3, maybe 4 meals a day with 1 or 2 snacks. And generally, they're really well balanced. But as we get older, I know for me, when I got into my teenage years, then it was having more snacks than balanced meals. And then our communities, our society makes it so much easier because now wherever we go, we've got snacks being advertised. We've got snacks even classified as healthy. So we're munching on those. And it's just become the norm to have lots of snacks. So it's easy then to get into a pattern where having lots of snacks, even though we might think that they're healthy, we're told that they're healthy, can start to outweigh those balanced meals. And right there, we've got imbalance. And then as we turn into teenagers, young adults, it may be that our lives become so busy, so consumed with living life. We might be studying, we might be going to work, we might have a family, children to look after, care and responsibilities. There's so many different things going on for us. We've lost that balance in terms of not just what a healthy, balanced meal looks like, but also that trajectory of those snacks and those healthy snacks taking the place of giving us space to cook and eat healthy meals. Also, we live in an age where convenience foods is everywhere. Wherever you go, there is ready-made meals that we can just pop in the microwave. We can eat on the go. We can pull up into a drive-through and order a meal. We can sit at home and have our meals delivered to us. And it's easy. It's easy to go and eat these ready prepared meals, these foods that we order in, eat snacks. All the time we're thinking we're making healthy choices. But somewhere along the line, the balance has got skewed. And we're intaking, even with these healthy meals and healthy snacks, somewhere along the line, we're taking in an excess of calories. So all of this over time contributes to weight gain. So how do we move past that? Well, the key to reducing our weight is to get the balance right with our relationship with food. That is absolutely key. We need to find a balance, get that balance right, and repair the relationship with food. Now, food isn't the enemy. It is not the enemy. Food is there to be enjoyed. It's there to be used as fuel for our bodies. It's supposed to be something really pleasurable. So where do we find the balance with that? And when I'm coaching my clients, I often really try and reiterate that there is no good foods, there is no bad foods. Because when we start to label foods, then that really starts to impact our mindset, which can then lead us to restriction. So there is no good foods, there is no bad foods. There is danger right there when we start to label food good or bad, because then we start to label ourselves. If we've eaten the so-called good foods, we can then start thinking of ourselves as having been good or having had a good day or a good week. And then if we've eaten something that we think we shouldn't have eaten, we start to call it bad. We're having bad foods. And then we start to think about ourselves of having a bad week or a bad day. And then we start to see ourselves as being bad. We're not bad. So labeling foods good or bad is fraught with danger. I like to think about food as just making a choice, as simple as that. And keeping into balance how often we make those choices. So this afternoon, I'm going out with my family. We're going to have a meal. We're going to a restaurant. I know the menu because I've eaten there many times. I know what I love. I know what I enjoy. So I'm going to have that. Not denying myself, not restricting. I'm not labeling it good or bad. And I can tell you, it's not going to be the salad. It's always the fish and chips. That's what I love. absolutely love the fish and chips with tartar sauce and garden peas on the side. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy that. But here's the key. I don't label that as bad food. It's food. Simple. It's food. And I don't worry about whether that meal is going to make me gain weight or whether it's going to lose weight. No. What's important to me in the moment is that I'm going out for a meal with my family and I'm going to enjoy the meal. But more importantly, I'm enjoying the company with my family. Now, am I going to have that meal next week or a couple of times a week? No, not having that. Maybe once every couple of weeks or a couple of times every few months. I might have that whenever I go out. So again, it's getting it into balance. Salad, yes, I love a salad, but I know that I'm not going to be enjoying myself eating a few salad leaves when everybody else is really tucking into their favourite dish. So again, for me, having that balance. Now, will I have a salad this week? Probably yes. Will I have fish and chips this week? No, won't have that. Will I have a salad and soups and lean meat and lean chicken throughout the week? Very likely. So again, thinking about having foods in balance, having time with my family, that's also keeping everything in balance. So that is really, really key. So I know that when I was overweight, when I was 131 pounds heavier, I was completely out of balance with my food. I would be having my takeaways 3 or 4 times a week. I was having the snacks and the chocolates and the biscuits and the cakes every single day. That for me was completely out of balance. Did I enjoy it? Sometimes I did. Was it making me happy? No. Did it make me feel good about myself? No. Was it supporting me on my weight loss journey? Definitely not. Because I got the balance wrong. But when I switched it and started thinking about having those foods, the takeaways, the fish and chips, the cakes, the chocolates, the biscuits, once in a while, I looked forward to those things. I started to really enjoy those things because it became a treat. So I was working on getting the balance right. But within that, I started to step by step, day by day, meal by meal, started to work on repairing that relationship with food. Started to really think about my food choices and getting that balance right, not thinking about the cakes and the chocolates and the sweets and the biscuits and the pizzas and the fish and chips and the pie and chips, the curry goat and rice, all of those things, not thinking about those as bad foods, no, but thinking about those as foods that I love, the foods I want to eat, but thinking about having them in moderation from time to time and building in some of those lower processed foods, or rather still having processed foods but less often, still having the sugars but less often, having the unhealthy fats but less often, having those refined carbohydrates but less often. So I wasn't cutting anything out, wasn't wasn't saying no to anything, was still having all of those things, but just less often, and also in smaller quantities when I did have them too. So as I started to repair my relationship with food, and I don't want to minimize this because it takes time. It's not going to happen. Well, for me, it didn't happen in a week, didn't happen in a month, didn't happen in a year. This is nearly 6 years. It's a lifelong journey building that relationship with food. Learning to say, there's no good foods, there's no bad foods. It's just food. I'm having it in moderation in my life. And when I started working on that and repairing that, it's interesting how then you can start to look at food in a different way. So at the start of my weight loss journey, I was like, okay, I've got to have everything low fat. So threw out my full fat yogurt and went to low fat yogurt. Threw out the full fat cheese, went to low fat cheese. Threw out the high sugar or to go into low sugar. Started doing all those things. And what I noticed, and I would love to know if you're similar or not, but leave me a comment below. But what I noticed was when I started having like the low fat yogurt, didn't taste as good. Didn't taste as good. So what I started to do was have more of the low fat yogurt because I was after that taste. I was after that texture. I was after that satisfaction, and I wasn't getting it with low fat yogurt. So whilst I was trying to go for the lower fat and lower sugars foods, because at the time I was following the Weight Watchers plan and that was less points, it wasn't satisfying me. So what I was doing was bulking out and eating more, which for me was counterintuitive. So when I switched back to full fat, oh my days, it was like a completely different product. It just tasted so rich and creamy and super delicious. And then what I realised, I didn't need as much. When I was having the low fat yogurt, I would be having a 500 ml. I would buy the 500 ml container of yogurt, and I was probably eating a quarter of that to give me the sense of satisfaction. Yeah, maybe a quarter, maybe a third to get that sense of satisfaction. But when I switched to the full fat, because it was so rich and creamy, I found I only needed to take 2 or 3 tablespoons, and that was it. That was it. I was completely satisfied, completely full, because the taste and the texture was so much nicer. The same with something like the Philadelphia cheese. I switched to the low fat or the light or the lightest. I started using the lightest. And what I realised is I could get absolutely loads for very little points on the Weight Watchers plan. And to be fair, it's fine if you're stirring it into a sauce to make it creamier. Something like that is fine. But when I was spreading it on toast or my Rivita, I found that I needed a lot of it just to get that taste. But when I switched back to full fat, what a huge difference. Yes, it was more in points or calories or sins if you're counting that, but the taste and the texture was so much richer and thicker. I found I only needed a small amount. When I switched to the Philadelphia original, what a difference. It was so thick, it was so creamy, it was so tasty. But the problem was because I was using so much in the light, virtually, I don't know, a third of a tub was one serving. When I went to use a third of the tub with the Philadelphia Original, I couldn't eat it. It was just too much. So again, like with the yogurt, only needed a small amount, maybe a teaspoon, and that was rich, thick, and satisfying for me. So that was a huge lesson that I learned. So now for me, and you will make, the choices that work for you. But for me, switching back to the original or the full fat on most things, I will say most things, has worked for me. And that has helped me repair my relationship with food, because now I'm not having huge quantities to satisfy me. I only need a small amount to make me feel satisfied. And managing my portions has been a real key shift for me on my weight loss journey. And that has really made the difference to me losing so much weight, is managing portions and building that relationship and working with that relationship with food, going back to full fat versions, going back to the originals, not leaning in on the low fat versions, not being afraid to have fat on my meat, again, was another key one, because fat gives food flavor. And when I have that flavor, I don't need as much. So what's important to you? Is it quantity? See lots of food on your plate? Is it quality? Maybe sticking with the original, the full fat, the full sugar. What's important to you? Or is it taste and flavor? And when you decide what's important to you, whether it be the taste, the quality, or the quantity, then that can really shape how you approach food and how you build your relationship with food. Now, I've got a small frame. I don't need huge amounts of food, but it's taken me time to work towards that. Now, somebody who's 6'6", they've got a bigger frame, they will need more food than me. So again, having a big plate of food may work for them, quantity may be right for them, but then it's thinking about what is the quality of the food on my plate. Yeah. So, I mean, I can go into so much detail around this. And that's why I run a coaching program. So if you would like one-to-one coaching with me to explore your relationship with food, to have somebody to talk to and to share ideas and to get support, then do check out the link below where I share details of my coaching program. I would love to work with you and to support you, like I've done thousands of other people over the years, helping them to work towards their goal and to reach their goal and to maintain their goals too. Also, if you want to be part of a community where we get together a couple of times a month, where we can talk about any issue that is affecting us on the journey, then do consider joining my membership. There are details on Patreon, and again, I'll leave a link below. I have 2 levels of membership, so do check them out. And we're also launching a book club. So the book club is going to be part of the membership. On the membership at the moment, we run 2 sessions each month where you can come along and talk to the community about issues that are impacting you. But we're going to also be looking at some key books, some really important books that can help us on the journey. We're going to read them, we're going to discuss them and pull out all of those points from leading industry experts who can really help us to shape our thinking and shape our mindset I'm super, super, super excited about this. So if you want to know more about this, then feel free to join me on my Facebook page or Instagram at Time Out with Angela, or my private Facebook group called Time Out for Weight Loss. And I'll be sharing lots more information about these things over the next couple of weeks. Okay, guys, back to the podcast. So building our relationship with food is absolutely key on the journey. And it's the number one thing to work on if we're overweight and we want to come out of that overweight bracket and we want to improve our health and to see results. Food choices and making poor food choices because of the imbalance of the choices that we make is key. So how do we move past that? If we've been in the cycle of making poor food choices, how do we move past that? So the key is to start working on the relationship with food. So as I mentioned, thinking about what's important to you. Is it quantity of food? You like to sit and see a huge amount of food on your plate. Is that important? And it may still be important. And if it is, then it's just about, well, what are the choices that you can make so that you still get that quantity of food on your plate? But now those choices are going to help you on your weight loss journey. Or maybe it's taste and flavor. Is that key to you? And if it is, well, what are the ingredients that are going to give you the taste and the flavor so you can savor your food and help make those good choices? Or perhaps it's the quality of the food. Are you wanting to lean in on those takeaways, the fast foods, the convenience? I was going to say inconvenience then. The convenient foods. Is that important to you? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's then thinking about how often we're going to have that. How can we build that in? And in fact, on my very first guest podcast, which is podcast number 2, my interview with Sherry. If you've not listened to that, please go back and listen to that, because Sherry made such a key point, and this has really stuck with me. Sherry said that she loves her takeaways, and I love the fact that she loves her takeaways. But she says sometimes it's about ordering in a takeaway and taking components of that takeaway to use as part of a meal. What she would do, she would order in a takeaway, take elements of that takeaway and build it into a meal that she's cooking. So it might be the meat or the chicken or the vegetables, etc. Then she'd freeze the rest for another day and use that for another meal that she's doing. So she's still enjoying elements of the takeaway rather than having the whole takeaway. And I love that idea. So again, no idea of being deprived, but still enjoying a takeaway, but now building it in to make a healthy meal. So yeah, I love that. Really love that. If you've not listened to that, guys, go back and check that out. It's episode 2, Sherry's episode. So as we're working on building the relationship with food, really, really, really key is to work on relationship with self, is to work on building our self-esteem, our self-belief, and our confidence. Really work on that. And when we do that, that's going to help us to really make those mindful choices. It's going to help us to build that strong mindset that's going to carry and propel us forward. Now, before we move into the other areas, I just want to touch on why we can get an imbalance with our food. And I touched on it earlier, is because we live in a society where food is glamorized, and often foods that are perhaps low quality, they're high in fats, sugars, and and refined carbohydrates, are often promoted as healthy, and we're consuming them. So that's a key factor, but also we can use food inappropriately. How many times have we perhaps been tired, or we don't feel very well? And what do? We turn to those quick fixes. So it's, again, how do we move past that? What strategies can we put in place so that we're using food appropriately? And, we all hear of that term comfort eating. We're eating to comfort and self-soothe. And again, to some extent, there's nothing wrong in that. But again, making those food choices that's going to support us, and making them consciously. So we can easily make food become our life. We're always thinking about food, always concerned about food, always worrying about food. Now, some people are foodies. Yeah, I was going to say food junkies, but I love food. I love cooking. I love exploring with different flavors. Um, I love discovering recipes. And I love cookbooks. And if you're like me, there's nothing wrong with that at all, because, as I said earlier, food is supposed to be a pleasure. It is meant to give us so much pleasure, whether we're smelling it, we're tasting it, we're eating it with family or friends, we're looking at it, we're flicking through cookbooks. Food is supposed to be pleasure. But the danger is, and you may identify with me on this, I know that when I first started my weight loss journey, I could not stop thinking about food. It almost become an obsession. But it wasn't about food for pleasure. It wasn't food to enjoy with family or friends. My focus was, what is the foods that is going to help me lose a couple of pounds this week? And for me, I look back now, and I'd really got the balance wrong there. Because I was thinking, oh, I'll eat this because it's low in points, low in calories, low in sins, whatever, low in carbs. And I was doing Weight Watchers at the time, and I was thinking, I'll eat this because it's low points. And what I was doing was ending up eating a load of crap. And if you've ever heard me on any of my videos, crap's not a swear word, guys. Crap stands for carbonated, additives, refined, and processed. Those are the foods that make up crap. So I was eating a lot of that because it was low in points. And I thought that that was going to help me to get weight loss. And I remember things like avocados. Avocados were seen as high pointed foods. So I was avoiding those, even though those are one of the best foods you could ever eat. They're high in macronutrients, in minerals, in vitamins, in healthy fats. They are so good for us. But I was avoiding those because, well, they were high in points. So I'd lost the balance. I'd completely lost the balance with food. So I was going for all the low quality foods because they were low in points. Now, I say that, let me retract that. I was going for lots of fruits and veggies too, which was low in point or zero. I was going for a lot of that too. And that's definitely a good thing. But when it came to other foods outside of the vegetables and fruits and the chicken and the fish and things like that, on the Weight Watchers program, which is the 0 pointed foods, outside of that, I was using my daily and weekly points for the crap, i.e. the things that were low in points. And those were often the foods such as, the low fat biscuits and the low fat yogurts and the lightest Philadelphia and the lightest cheese. And I was going for them because they were low in points value, not because they tasted good. So I became obsessed, really obsessed in seeking out the lowest pointed things, the lowest calories, because I thought that was going to get me weight loss. So it was then, trying to get that balance back with food, getting the balance back. And once I managed to get the balance back, then weight loss really started to happen for me. Food is powerful, guys. It is really powerful. So the number one thing that keeps us overweight, that makes us overweight and prevents us from shifting out of being overweight into a healthy weight is poor food choices and imbalance. That imbalance somewhere with our food. It's also imbalance with our level of activity. Now, I'm a firm believer that weight loss is at least 80% what we eat. Food, but more importantly, nutrition is king. That for me, and I say that to all of my clients, nutrition is king. And you can lose weight without moving your body, without exercising, without ever stepping inside of a gym. I've coached clients who are wheelchair users and they can't stand. They have limited mobility. Okay, so you can lose weight without moving. However, where you can move, then it's getting that balance right. I remember back in the day, I was working out in the gym all the time and coming home and eating absolute crap. I remember I had a client who said to me, he said, Angela, I can't understand why I'm not losing weight. He said, I cycle to work and I do a 50-mile round trip every day on my bicycle. I thought I would have lost a lot more weight by now. He went on to remark that, his legs, his thighs, his calves were really, really firming up, but he wasn't seeing the numbers on the scale. In fact, he was gaining weight. So I said to him, well, okay, it's really, really good that you are active, that you're moving, but tell me a bit about your food, because remember, food is king. Tell me about your food. He goes, wow. And he admitted that what he was doing was 2 or 3 times a week. He was on his way home from work. He was nipping into the chippy and buying fish and chips, pie and chips, curry sauce, and then a bottle of fizzy drinks, nipping to the shop next door, buying a couple of chocolate bars and going home and eating them. And that was his reward for having cycled to and from work. But also he thought that would all balance out. No, no, no. Weight loss doesn't work like that. And I'm going to do an episode about what causes weight loss and how we actually get weight loss in the body. I'm going to do an episode about that, so do stay tuned, guys. If you're not subscribed, then hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell if you're listening on YouTube, and if you're listening on Spotify, click the follow button. And also drop me a comment below and let me know if you're enjoying this episode, and also any other topics you want me to cover. So food is king. Goes without saying. You can't outrun a fork. You can't outrun a fork. You can be in the gym 7 days a week. You could be working out 24 hours a day, but then if you're putting poor quality crap, you've got the imbalance with your food, you're not going to see weight loss. So, or weight loss long term, you've got to get that balance. So, moving your body if you can, where you can, more than you currently do now, or a little bit more is going to help. But again, it's got to be over time. Don't think that you've got to start in the gym and then a week later you can't maintain it. Yeah, do something that you're able to keep up, even if it's 10 minutes a day. Now, because I do have a full-time job. What I tend to do is I commit to at least 10 minutes of walking every day at lunchtime, whatever the weather. Now, some days I've not been able to get out because the weather is poor. It's wet, it's damp, and I do have a health condition. But if I can't get out, then I'll make sure that I'm walking around the office, or if nothing else, when I get home, I will just dance or move or do a workout video. But moving at least 10 minutes a day is something that I commit to. So you don't have to get in the gym, guys. You can if you want to, if that's your thing. Great. But it's just finding a way to move your body consistently. And again, when I was overweight, I didn't move. I knew I needed to, I didn't move. So that created an imbalance with the food I was eating, lack of movement, being really sedentary. Had to get that balance right. And that really was keeping me overweight. So a couple of other reasons why we are overweight and why we may not be losing weight is an imbalance with our hormones. And both men and women can experience this. And we tend to think about this for women around menopause, but it can happen at any stage in our lives. Teenagers see an imbalance in their hormones, and that's why they can often break out with acne. At any stage in our lives, we can see an imbalance with our mood swings. With men, it may be around hair loss. There are so many reasons why we can see an imbalance in hormones. But don't forget, guys, genetics can also play a part in this. And genetics can mean that we store body fat as well. I mean, I remember my GP saying to me on several occasions, what's your family history? Is there a history of diabetes, high blood sugar levels, glaucoma? What's your family history? Why does he ask that? Because genetics play a part in who we are. So if there's been some genetics around, your family's body type, look at your family members. Is everybody overweight? Has everybody got a genetically large tummy? I know in my family, everybody in my family has got a tummy. Everybody, no matter what their shape, what their size, everybody's got a tummy. That's genetics. That's genetics. We've also got genetics around diabetes in the family as well. And we know the role that diabetes play in our body shape, particularly our waist size and our tummy sizes. So genetics really do play a lot. And it can relate to our body shape and our weight. So if you think that there might be some genetic imbalances or hormonal imbalances, you're looking at your family, you're looking at your children, and they're all of similar shape and health challenges, then definitely speak to your GP about that, because get some support about redressing that imbalance. Now, the next point is around emotional eating and stress. Stress, anxiety, and emotional eating, they all play a part in how we eat and what we eat and what we crave. And many people then turn to food as a source of comfort. And this can lead to weight gain over time. Now, how many times have we felt that? I know I have done. Something comes along, we get emotional, we feel upset, we feel distressed, feel that we can't cope, we find comfort in food. And once in a while, again, getting that balance may not be a problem, but if this is happening over and over and over again, then again, something to think about, something to look at, something to plan for, and something where we need to get the balance right. What about our sleep? Sleep deprivation, a lack of sleep. When we don't get enough sleep for us, that can really play havoc with our hormones that relate to hunger, such as ghrelin and leptin. And these can lead to an increased appetite and cravings for those high calorie foods. Now, have a little think about this, guys. Have you ever had a poor night's sleep where you've not slept well, you've tossed and you've turned, you've not got the rest you needed, you wake up and all you're craving is something sweet? Yeah, we want the sugary cornflakes, we want the jam on toast, we want last night's pizza, we want those biscuits. Why? That's because of that hormonal imbalance. And when we give into that over time can lead to weight gain. So again, really important that we get that balance right and we work on our sleep so that we get the right amount of sleep that our body needs. But also, the last point I want to touch on is metabolism that changes with age. As we age, our metabolism tends to naturally slow down. And we might even have had lifestyle changes. Maybe we're not as active as we used to be. All of this is going against us, and it can make it that little bit easier to gain weight, but harder to lose. So as people age, their metabolism tends to slow down, making it easier for them to gain weight and harder to lose it. And this is often compounded then by a decrease in physical activity. They're not as active, they're not walking as much, they're not moving as much, they're staying home. So when we recognize these, and if we, together with making those food poor choices, it could also be that we're not getting the sleep that we need. All of these factors can contribute to us being overweight, but also staying overweight. And last but not least, medication. Medication such as antidepressants, antipsychotic drugs, and steroids can cause weight gain as a side effect. So if you are prescribed any medication, do talk to your GP about any side effects and whether they may cause weight gain, and get that advice on how you can manage that. So guys, I'm just going to sum up for you. So 7 things that can contribute to us being overweight, keeping us overweight, and struggling to lose the weight to get to our goals. Number 1 is huge, making those poor food choices because our choices are imbalanced. Number 2, a lack of physical activity, moving just that little bit more. We may have that imbalance going on right there. What can we do to just shift it a little bit? Number 3, it might be our genetics and hormonal makeup. Number 4, emotional eating and stress can be a major factor. Number 5, sleep deprivation, not getting the quality and the quantity of sleep that we need. Number 7, our metabolism changes as we get older, especially if we're decreasing the level of activity that we're doing, that can keep us in that state. We may even see weight gain if we're not physically active as our metabolism slows down. And number 7 is medication. There might be medication that we're taking that might be contributing to our state of being overweight. So guys, that is my 7 things that may be keeping us overweight. Do you identify with any of those things? Do let me know, drop a comment below, or reach out to me in our Facebook group called Time Out with Weight Loss and let me know your thoughts. So guys, that is it from me today. If you have enjoyed this podcast episode, then do give me a thumbs up. And I would love if you could do me a favour. I would love if you could share this episode with somebody that you care about. Share it with your family, your friends, tell your colleagues about it. It may help someone. And if you need any extra support, then do come and join our free Facebook group at Time Out for Weight Loss. I will drop the links below. And if you want that support via a community, then do consider joining our membership on Patreon. But if you want some one-to-one coaching, then do reach out via the links below about my coaching program. That is it from me, guys. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you soon. Take care now.